Hey, what's up? This is Samy Elbanna from Lost Society, and you're watching GRIMM TV.
Really nice to meet you again.
It's very nice to see you. The last time was, Jesus, it was like 3 years ago in the same place, right?
For interview, yeah. We've been briefly seeing each other like
here and there.
There. I think last time was Formosa Finland Fest.
That's true. Yeah,
briefly,
that's
like,
true.
okay.
So every time we end up for these long interviews, it's like it hits me like, oh, that much time has passed since the last time. Yeah. But here we are.
Time goes fast.
Dude, tell me about it.
How are you doing today? How have you been?
Thank you. I'm doing actually like spectacularly good, I must say. Like, besides the fact that it's so fucking cold outside that I'm losing my mind, I have always been more of a summer person, believe it or not. But I'm doing really good. It's pretty much it's a very surreal beginning of the year. There's lots of big life changes mixed with the fact that I'm getting the privilege to do some pretty spectacular and crazy live shows, mixed with the fact that there's the 6th Lost Society record coming out, which sort of blows my mind more so than anything. Not, just for the fact that I love the album and I'm very proud of it, but the fact that I've started this journey, this musical journey about, 15 years ago. It's mind baffling that I still get to do this, call it my job in its most sincere form. So I can't complain, honestly. I can't complain. I'm having a great day.
Good. As you're saying, like, you're really happy with the upcoming album. Yeah, I don't really have to ask if you're excited, like, for it coming out. I remember at the Formosa Finland Fest that you could barely hold yourself from saying more than you already did. So I guess it's a given that you're really excited.
It's definitely a given. And I was just talking about this earlier today with our dear promo that I love the fact also that, well, obviously, the first snippet of the record, Dead People, did come out before the summer, but I'm so excited about the fact that this sort of album campaign, if it were, it's very constant now that, one song came out and I know that there's another one coming very soon. And then after that, it's the record out. I feel like this is it's the moment when everything starts to feel very real. And at this point, I'm not scared of accidentally, blurting out stuff about the record anymore. Now it's like, well, it's going to be this and this and this and this and this. And for me, as I said earlier, more so than ever, I love this record. Myself, personally, I think we did a really good job. And, I'm excited that people will be able to take it and make it their own, in all of the good and the bad senses of the word. Like I'm not very nervous anymore when it comes to putting out songs or records, because I know that, in no galaxy or no universe will it ever be possible to please everyone, nor should that ever be the basis of doing anything in life. So I'm very excited, and I think it turned out really good. I've been practicing the songs quite a lot because we have a tour coming up, and just every time finding those little small nuances here and there, which are like, oh yeah, we did that and that and that. I'm happy with it.
You've been saying that this album is kind of a like Lost Society that stops searching but like starts becoming. Kind of like looking back at your more recent albums before this one. Do you feel like you were on those kind of conscious, like experimenting there, like with that in mind, or like?
I feel like it's sort of like a mixture between two feelings, because I can't ever really say that, obviously every record that we put out is going to be the best music of that moment. It has to be. If it wasn't, or if we weren't challenging ourselves every time we write and every time we put out music, we wouldn't be doing the world, anything. We wouldn't be offering offering our point of view for really anything. So to me, I would never say that anything that we've done until now was not us being our authentic selves, but it was us writing music that felt very natural to us, be it, the first record, when we were, kids, basically, call a spade a spade. We were kids. And, going from there on, being able to be musically and artistically more mature in a way that we were able to write more complex songs with melody, to, the previous record, which I think was a very monumental moment for our history at that point. But I feel like what I mean more so than ever with us, finally sort of finding our place, is that now with this music, it's something that I have not heard before. I think it's us offering something absolutely unique. I think nothing that we've done until now was, obviously no other band is going to sound exactly like us. It would be impossible because there's 4 people always to a band, and our amazing, fifth member, Jonas. We all have different musical identities and different musical DNA, which compiles to what we do. But with this new record, I think we're able to bring together so many different elements from so many different musical realms that it is definitely something that I have never heard before.
You were also, like, at least in the press text, kind of referencing to, like, the Finnish, let's say, forefathers or whatever, like him, Nightwish, Children of Bodom, as, like, bands that, like, push the boundaries, like you feel you're now doing with this album. Do you feel kind of like a sense of responsibility, or even, like, kind of pressure to carry that same kind of legacy forward in, like, a modern day? Or
I feel like it's like a privilege more than a pressure, because I feel like it's like, when we come from a place that has such a rich heritage with, as the bands that you just mentioned, it's like, I think one thing that ties them all together is that each of those bands, if you'd put them on paper and you'd write the concept of it on paper, you might be like, well, that sounds very interesting. How is that going to work out? Be it Nightwish, who's doing basically, metal but cinematic music mixed with opera. That's like the basis of what that band started from. That sounds crazy on paper, but it works because it's so crazy, and it's a mixture of things that no one would have thought to put together. In a similar way for Children of Bodom, it was, it's pure and simple. It's like, it's extreme metal, but mixed in with 80s melodics and stuff. It's like, you wouldn't expect that to necessarily work until you actually try to do that. And, for us, what that means is just that we have the opportunity to show people that, we love all kinds of different things. I love Hans Zimmer's, soundtracks to so many records, and the landscapes that he's able to build with that whole cinematic, musical and sonical world. But I obviously love metal music, but I love Lady Gaga, but I also love, fucking everything in between. So to me, it's more like, when am I able to put all of those things together to create this unholy alliance? And I feel like for this record, me and Jonas, who we wrote this whole thing with, we were just like, this time, let's just, if we ever get that instinct where it's like, are we going too far? We're just going to say, no, let's let it go as far as the song needs to go. Because I think, like, some of the biggest train wrecks in music come from when people are like, they're saying they're going to do something, but then they tone it down just that little, couple of percent to make it not believable. It's like, because, if you want to do something, you have to believe in it, but doing something half-assed only shows that you don't believe in it fully. But, with us, when we're bringing in an orchestra and we're still doing the very industrial kind of production on some places, and we're doing a very stripped back, sonic production on the record. Like, it doesn't sound like anything, in the metalcore realm that people are doing now. I think it was a very conscious risk that we took, but we didn't feel pressure. We felt privileged that we're able to do that and, do it to the best of our abilities. because I feel like we already have, Finland has established itself already with those bands that we've been talking about. So I feel like it's, in a sense, it's our privilege and we're grateful that we're able to be like, well, hey, here's a continuum from those bands, but in our own way. So, take it or leave it.
You mentioned the orchestration. I guess that you could say that is one very significant new thing on this album for Lost Society. Since it's coming back in majority of the songs, I believe. Like, I've been listening to the album quite a few times today, and I heard, like, at first I thought, like, ooh, Blood Diamond, oh, that's interesting, those orchestrations. And then it comes through the whole album, it's like, oh, okay. When did it kind of, or how did it kind of hit with you guys that you needed this for the album, the orchestration?
It was, it's actually cool that you mentioned Blood Diamond, because that was, to me, it's crazy. For the last couple of records with No Absolution, it was the title track. For If the Sky Came Down, it was 112. And for this record, it was Blood Diamond. It's always a song that happens in a very early stage when you're writing the record. And then I was immediately like, this is the first song with this element that I want people to hear. And this is like, it's a perfect introduction, sort of soft launch to the whole theme of the record. And the story is really funny also, because I literally wrote, I was writing like hip hop beats at home. And, I posted this on social media too, where it's like, I had this loop of like a 12, 13 second loop that had the melody of Blood Diamond, but obviously in a fully different, dimension. And we were at the studio with Jonas. We were like, let's try like to do like a Dimmu Borgir kind of thing with this melody and build this song as what it would sound like as a Lost Society song. And when we got the initial, just, we used plugins for the first demos or whatever, but we listened to the song every morning when we went to the studio. And every time the band hits, we're like, this is so fucking good. And we're onto something. And I feel like, once we got the idea that it's possible to actually do something like that. And, for us from the get-go, it was very clear that we would obviously hire an actual orchestra. We had no idea that we were able to hire the people that we did, but we initially, we set out to do something authentic. And it opened up something in us, I think, in a way that, with 2026 and the metal scene being that, heaviness is measured with breakdowns or how, the weirdest sound that you can make with your mouth. But I feel like, putting in classical instruments into metal is one of the most it's one of the most like heart-wrenching and beautiful things that you can do simultaneously with it being very heavy sounding. Like, I've always agreed with the fact that classical musicians, from back in the day, they were the original metal musicians, because that is so fucking heavy. And, doing something like Hell is a State of Mind, which sounds, the intro is like, it's almost like Jean Sibelius, which is something that we had no idea we had inside of ourselves. And, I think we were able to challenge the norms of what, a modern metal, whatever the fuck, I don't know what that means, but what we were able to challenge the norms of what a metal band can do in 2026 to sound very heavy, but at the same time sound like Lost Society.
I feel that adding the orchestration thing to like metal genres that you wouldn't necessarily expect it to is something that right now seems to be working really well. I mean, look at Lorna Shore.
Dude, the funniest thing also is like, well, yeah, obviously with Lorna Shore and I mean, from back in the day with Dimmu Borgir also, but I think one of the funniest things was like, obviously we've had this record done for a while now, and late last year, an artist called Rosalia, obviously from a fully different genre, different scene, different world, put out her record, which has this very orchestra heavy production. And I was like, well, fuck me. It's like, okay, so it doesn't matter what world you're in, what musical world you're in, some ideas and some, challenges of the norms live within everyone. And that was just very funny to see, because we were just at the cusp of setting the release date and everything. So I think it's funny how things like that work out.
Yeah, like you were just mentioning that like adding orchestrations and that it can make it like heart-wrenching and like add so much like dynamics and such. I mean, again, falling back to Lorna Shore, I never thought I would see grown men cry to deathcore.
Right.
I mean,
no, I agree with you 1,000%. And it is something, it's probably something that lies with just the history of music also, and how classical music has, in regards to music, it is like one of the oldest things to do. So there is some primitive emotion that it builds within people, and mixing that together with something that you're very used to it being a certain way, it creates something very special, in my opinion.
I also feel that you adding now that orchestration part in your music, that it made this album compared to, for instance, your last album, it made it more consistent to me. It sounds like a well-built album that has like that kind of almost red line going through it with that orchestrate. Like it's like the glue that holds everything together to me.
I'm happy I'm happy to hear that it comes through, because to me it's like obviously lyrically, but also I think musically it is a very sound album. It is a story from start to end. And I do hope that everyone gives the whole record a possibility, because I feel like a lot of the songs also, or the singles so far, they sound a different way when you pull them out of the album context versus what they sound like when they're in the record. Because to me also, it is obviously important that even though this is, very close to a concept record within our world, I think it's always important to me that a song can work also by its own without sort of diminishing the meaning. So, but yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the sound and experimentation they did in our last album comes back, like that kind of new metal-y sound and such, but it feels way more grown up on this album, partially because of that orchestration that was added. Also, I recognize some like more classic heavy metal parts here and there. That,
hell yeah!
I don't know. To me, it feels like just like a major upgrade of the sound of your last album.
I'm happy to hear that, and because for all of the like the very heavy metal things and all that, like that is literally as going back to the roots as it gets for me, because, or for any of us, because our roots are Iron Maiden, they're Alice Cooper, they're Judas Priest, it's all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like it's just, this was the record and these were the songs and this was the context where we were finally able to bring all of that together to make it sound like us, which is really cool to me.
Yeah. I also appreciated that you mentioned somewhere that most of the songs basically start acoustically.
Yes.
To kind of, I've talked before with plenty of musicians that a good song works without all of the bling and all the extras.
Yes.
It's a good song. It works like with just like one or two guitars and
100%. It's the campfire method. Mm-hmm. I love it. But it's honestly, it is true, because a great, we're fans of a great melody and a great song, and it literally is that. It has to work when you're, sat around that campfire singing it with an acoustic guitar, because, you can have, you can add a 1,000 synths and an orchestra and bells and whistles and everything you want, but you can't make a shitty melody sound good with all of the tools in the world.
Yeah, I think I was recently talking with, I think it was Josh from Silosis.
Right.
And it was just saying like, yeah, we basically like have written the songs, good songs, so that if all of our extras don't work to play live, we can still fucking play the song.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And that's like, that was very important for us also. It's like, even, especially with having the orchestra stuff and all of that, because like, obviously everyone knows that we're not going to be touring with an orchestra. We're going to have everything that we can have smart put on a backing track. But I want us to be able to, even if everything goes wrong, everything breaks down, I want us to be always able to play everything that we write as, a 4-piece band. And that's what we've maintained, since the very beginning. And that's like, I think that's like, it's the least that you can do.
I'm guessing it's also kind of because I read that you were also like very much like layering the guitars and such.
Yeah.
How tricky is that for you guys to kind of translate that to then playing live? Because you can't play all the layers.
I mean, the good thing is also that like we layer a lot of we don't or let's put it this way, that we like to build the atmosphere with a lot of additional stuff, but that is often synths, it's industrial stuff, but we like to keep the guitar arrangements as sort of honest to what they are, which is 2 guitars. It's like, often we'll add a third harmony or, add something behind a solo, but then it's like, then those just get left out during a live show. It's like, who the fuck cares if it has the third harmony? It's like, if you have the 2 main things, that's enough. And I feel like that's also been something that I've learned along the way, where it's like, I felt at some point that it's so unnatural to have a song and then have, the live act that we don't have each and every single layer with us. But then I went to see, fuck, I don't remember what band I went to see, but it was just like a pure rock and roll band where it was just 3 guys on stage, drums, guitar, and bass. That's what it's all about. It's like, I wouldn't notice, if I go to see a band and like one of the harmonies is missing. It's like, well, that's a unique viewing experience and hearing experience. And that's what it's supposed to be like, basically.
That always brings me back to Danko Jones, who always says during the shows like, I fucked up again. Well, I guess you didn't hear, but hey, that's rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, from a musician standpoint too, I feel like it's the shows where you fuck up that you remember, but the ones that go perfectly, they blend in. Mm-hmm. But yeah. And by no means can this be misinterpreted also in the way that I'm like against clicks and backing tracks. I fucking love them both.
Now, vocally for this album, you've gone kind of beyond as well. You tried like a whole bunch of basically new things. What was kind of for you during this process of making the album kind of the trickiest thing, or the thing that like surprised you the most, that like, fuck, hey, I can do this?
Well, I think one of the best things with writing this kind of music is like, I've always because before I screamed, I sang. Before the first record, but I wasn't a very good singer, so I didn't want to put it on the record ever. But, as years go by, I love singing, and I do, on this record, I very consciously wanted to make the distinction that I'm not a guitar player that also sings, but I'm a guitar player and a singer. And I feel like Jonas put it so well into words. He was like, you just consciously like to write very difficult vocal lines, and then you just have to learn them. It's like, I don't really give myself any opportunity to fail, in a way. Like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but writing like, is this what you wanted, or no longer human, stuff like that are very vocally intense. Like, it just has to be like, then I just have to learn the techniques, and I have to get there, and I practice my ass off, both off stage, on stage, and, before studio and during studio. And I think I managed to get there. Like, I can stand behind every single thing that I sang on this record. And I think I like to challenge myself every time we do anything be it with guitar or vocals. And, I think my story as a vocalist is just beginning now with this record.
Yeah. Now with this album, with all the kind of cinematic feel and the kind of special way that you created the album or recorded the album, kind of from an artistic perspective, do you feel more exposed on this record than on previous ones, or rather more protected because of all the like theatrical and cinematic
I feel like it's I think nothing would work if something wasn't as good as as good as it has to be. So I feel like even if we would have had all the orchestras in the world, if my vocal performance wouldn't be up to the level of what everything else is, it wouldn't work. So, I feel very, like, as I said earlier, I stand behind everything I did, and we really put in the hours to make sure it also sounds good and it's all sang well. But I feel like, with the last record already, I learned the significance with delivering vocals. It's like you can have lyrics and you can have a melody. You can sing it note perfect, but if it doesn't have the performance, it's not going to sound good. So, we have loads of things on this record, which I'm very excited about also, that aren't, like the pitch isn't necessarily like 100%, but the feel is like 1,000%. And I think that goes to show, it's not just about tuning everything to make it sound good. It's like you have to have a vocal delivery. And I think with that, we really nailed it on this one. And, I don't think, even, as I said, the orchestra could be as loud as you want, but if your vocals are shit, it's not going to help.
Like you mentioned in the beginning, you've been practicing the songs a lot because quite soon after the album, you're going on a European tour.
Yes, sir.
I know you've played already like the singles live, but are there any of the other songs that you haven't played live yet that you're personally like really looking forward to like bring?
I'm so excited to bring on a lot of the songs, but Hell is a State of Mind, the title track, I'm gonna insist until the end that we do that one immediately live, because I feel like that is the most dynamic song that we've ever done, fucking point blank. It's crazy. And I think that's going to be a really cool one to do live. It's going to be challenging as hell, but I feel like it's going to be a really cool moment because, when you're so up and close with the fans, when you have a song that has so much dynamics, it gets into its most, its most vulnerable and most powerful state. So I think that one's going to definitely be a big moment in the shows. I think there's, even Blood Diamond, we still haven't done that live because it just came out. Mm-hmm. So debuting, that's going to be a big one. I really look forward to doing Is This What You Wanted? And yeah, honestly, this is one of those records where I said to the guys just a couple of days ago, I was like, it's going to be difficult to try to make a set list because I'd like to do the whole record. But obviously, like, maybe it's not a good idea immediately to do it because the record's going to be out for a day before we play the shows. But, I think, putting songs here and there, seeing how they work, seeing how they translate into the live setting, it's going to be a cool experience.
Yeah. I'll be looking forward to see you playing those new songs live. The very latest at Tuska.
Hell yeah.
Also looking forward with this very theatrical album.
It's going to be cool. I can tell you it's going to be cool.
Last time I saw you at Tuska, I was already like ramping up the show again. So I'm looking forward. How are you going to step it up again?
It's always a challenge that we willfully accept.
All right. I hope there's tons of people that pick the album up and like what you've been doing on this one. And they have like a pretty damn good tour.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, to everyone, what I want to leave with everyone is the notion of please listen to the record just once fully before you make up your mind. And once you've listened to it, form your own opinion. Don't go with the masses. Let yourself fucking rip it apart and say it sucks, or or if you love it, then that's fucking cool too.
Yeah. Let's hope it brings up at least some emotion.
Absolutely. That's my biggest hope. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for the talk.
Thank you.